She buried her husband, lost her home, and now, inside a rusted bus at the edge of town. One sound in the dark will decide if she keeps her daughter or loses everything again. You never made him happy. The words landed like stones in Lisa Moore's chest. She stood in the doorway of what used to be her home, her 6-year-old daughter's hand gripped tight in hers, and watched her mother-in-law's face twist with something uglier than grief. You drained him, Samantha continued, her voice sharp enough to cut. Just like you drained his money. My son is dead because of you. Lisa's throat closed. 3 weeks had passed since they'd lowered Sean into the ground. 3 weeks since she'd discovered the truth buried in stacks of red-stamped envelopes. 3 weeks since everything she thought she knew about her life had shattered. Now here's what most people don't understand about betrayal. It doesn't arrive all at once. It comes in waves. First the shock, then the shame, then the slow suffocation of realizing you've been living someone else's lie. This is the story of how Lisa Moore went from standing beside her husband's coffin to sleeping in an abandoned bus with her daughter. How she went from being blamed for a dead man's mistakes to becoming the woman who built something so beautiful. Even her cruelest critic had to stop and stare. But before we get to the triumph, and trust me, you'll want to stay for that, we need to understand the fall. Because what Lisa built didn't come from luck or charity. It came from the kind of desperation that either destroys you or transforms you. And Lisa Moore? She chose transformation. If this story speaks to you, if you've ever felt discarded, blamed for someone else's choices, or forced to rebuild from absolute nothing, hit that like button. Subscribe because stories like this need to be told. And drop a comment telling me, have you ever had to start completely over? Now, let me take you back to the beginning. Lisa Moore was 36 years old when her husband died, but she felt ancient. The kind of tired that settles into your bones and makes you wonder if you'll ever feel light again. She'd met Sean when she was 23, young enough to mistake charm for character, promises for plans. He had this way of making everything sound possible. Late nights in their tiny apartment, he'd sketch business ideas on napkins, his eyes bright with schemes that never quite materialized but always sounded brilliant in the moment. We're going to build something real, Lisa, he'd say. Something our kids can be proud of. She believed him. God help her, she believed every word. They married at 25. Ella arrived a year later, perfect and small in theirs. For a while, life felt like it was unfolding exactly as it should. Sean worked in sales, sometimes. Lisa picked up shifts as a medical receptionist, juggling childcare and bills while Sean chased his next big break. She didn't question the credit card statements that arrived in his name only. She didn't push when he said the business deal, just needed a little more time. She trusted him to handle the finances while she handled everything else. That trust, it turned out, was the most expensive mistake of her life. The heart attack came without warning on a Tuesday morning. Sean was 38 years old, laughing at something Ella said over breakfast, and then he wasn't. Just like that. One moment present, the next gone. Lisa remembered screaming. She remembered Ella's small face, frozen in confusion. She remembered the paramedics shaking their heads, their practiced sympathy landing hollow in her ears. The funeral was small. Sean's mother, Samantha, sat rigid in the front pew, her grief expressed through silence and sharp glances. A handful of coworkers attended. Some distant cousins. Lisa stood there holding Ella's hand, feeling like she was watching someone else's life collapse. "Mommy, when's Daddy coming back?" Ella whispered. Lisa's heart cracked open. "He's not, baby. Remember? He's with the angels now." But he didn't say goodbye. Neither did the life they'd built together. It just vanished, as suddenly as Sean had. The first envelope arrived 4 days after the funeral. Final notice. Immediate payment required. Lisa stared at it, confused. They'd always been tight on money, but Sean said he was handling it. He'd always said he was handling it. Then came the second envelope. The third. The 10th. Credit cards maxed out in both their names. Personal loans she'd never heard of. A second mortgage on the house Sean's mother had put in his name years ago, the house Lisa thought was secure. The numbers swam before her eyes. 30,000, 50,000, $78,000 in debt, spread across accounts and lenders she'd never known existed. Lisa sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by paper proof of her husband's secret life, and felt something inside her go numb. Ella was in the next room watching cartoons, oblivious. How long had he been lying? How many times had she asked, "Are we okay?" and heard, "We're fine," when they were drowning? She wanted to scream. She wanted to cry. She wanted to dig Sean up and demand answers. Instead, she called Samantha. "I need help." Lisa hated the way her voice sounded, small, pleading, desperate. She stood in Samantha's pristine living room, the same room where she'd spent countless Sundays pretending everything was fine, and watched her mother-in-law's face harden. "Help with what?" "The debt. Sean left. There's so much debt, Samantha." "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." Samantha's mouth thinned into a line. "My son worked himself to death trying to provide for you. He lied to me. About everything. The accounts, the loans. Don't you dare blame him." Samantha's voice rose, sharp and sudden. "He's not here to defend himself, is he? How convenient for you." Lisa's stomach dropped. "I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just trying to understand. You never appreciated what you had. Always wanting more, pushing him to be something he wasn't. My Sean was happy before you came along." The words landed like slaps. Lisa felt her face burn. "That's not true. I loved him. I supported. You killed him." Samantha's eyes glittered with something dark and certain. "With your disappointment. With your needs. You broke my boy, and now you want me to clean up your mess." Lisa's hands trembled. Ella was at a friend's house, thank God. She couldn't hear this. "I just need time. To figure things out. Maybe stay here for a few weeks while I—" "No." The word hung in the air, final as a door slamming. "This is my son's house. His childhood home. He earned it, not you. I won't have you living here, filling it with your failure. Samantha, please. We have nowhere. You should have thought of that before you drove him into an early grave." Lisa stumbled back, the cruelty of it stealing her breath. She'd come here for help. For family. For any small mercy in a world that had just swallowed her whole. Instead, she found blame. Contempt. A mother's grief twisted into a weapon aimed straight at her. "You have 1 week," Samantha said, turning away. "I want you out." Lisa left that house and didn't look back. She walked 3 blocks before her legs gave out and she sank onto a bus bench, shaking so hard her teeth chattered. Sean's mother thought she'd killed him. Thought she was the problem, the drain, the reason everything fell apart. Maybe she was right. Maybe Lisa should have noticed. Should have pushed harder for answers. Should have seen the lies hiding behind Sean's bright smile. But she hadn't. And now she was alone with a 6-year-old daughter, $78,000 in debt, and exactly 7 days to find a home. The sun was setting, painting the Georgia sky in shades of orange and gold. Beautiful, like everything was normal. Like the world wasn't ending. Lisa pulled out her phone and started scrolling through rental listings. Every single one required first month, last month, security deposit, credit check, references, proof of income. She had none of those things. Not anymore. Her phone buzzed. A text from the friend watching Ella. "Everything okay? Ella's asking when you're coming." Lisa's hands shook as she typed back, "On my way." "Thank you." She stood up, her legs unsteady, and started walking. 1 foot in front of the other. Because that's what mothers do. They keep moving, even when they have nowhere to go. The question that haunted her with every step was simple and terrible. What happens when you lose everything, and the people who should love you blame you for it? Lisa was about to find out. The week Samantha gave Lisa to leave passed in a blur of panic and phone calls that went nowhere. "I'm sorry, we require a minimum credit score of 650. The background check flagged some financial concerns. We need proof of employment for the last 6 months. I'm afraid we can't approve your application at this time." Each rejection felt like another nail in a coffin Lisa was building around herself. She sat in the small bedroom she'd shared with Sean, surrounded by half-packed boxes, and tried to figure out how her life had become unrecognizable in less than a month. Ella bounced into the room, her backpack slung over one shoulder. She'd just turned 6 3 weeks before Sean died. The birthday cake was still in the freezer, forgotten. "Mommy, why are we packing again? Are we going on vacation?" Lisa's throat tightened. She'd been stalling, trying to find the right words to explain homelessness to a child who still believed in fairy tales. "We're going on an adventure, baby. A really big one." "Where?" "I don't know yet. But it'll be exciting. You'll see. Ella's face lit up with the kind of trust that made Lisa's chest ache. Her daughter believed her. Completely. The weight of that faith felt heavier than any debt. Can I bring Mr. Whiskers? Ella held up her stuffed cat, the one Sean had won at a county fair years ago. Of course. Mr. Whiskers goes everywhere you go. Lisa pulled her daughter close, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo, and silently promised herself she'd find a way. Somehow, the day they had to leave, Samantha didn't even come to the door. She sent her lawyer instead, a thin man in an expensive suit who handed Lisa an envelope and waited while she loaded their belongings into her 15-year-old Honda. 2 suitcases, a backpack, a box of Ella's toys, a trash bag stuffed with clothes. Everything Lisa owned in the world fit in the trunk of a car that might not last another month. Ella climbed into the back seat, Mr. Whiskers clutched tight. Where's our new house? We're going to stay with a friend for a bit while Mommy figures things out. The lie came easier than the truth. Lisa didn't have friends anymore, not the kind you could impose on with a child in tow. Most of her friendships had faded during the years she'd spent managing Sean's moods and schedules. The ones that remained had their own struggles, their own small apartments bursting with their own families. She drove aimlessly for an hour, then pulled into a supermarket parking lot and sat there as the sun climbed higher. Other people went about their normal days, buying groceries, heading to work, living lives that made sense. Lisa pulled out her phone and dialed the one person she thought might help. Her sister, Jennifer. The phone rang 4 times before going to voicemail. Lisa hung up and tried again. This time, Jennifer picked up on the second ring. Lisa? What's wrong? Even her sister's voice carried that note of weariness. Lisa wondered when she'd become the problem everyone dreaded hearing from. I need help, Jen. Just for a little while. Sean left us in a bad situation, and Samantha kicked us out, and I just need somewhere to stay until. Lisa, I can't. Jennifer's voice was firm, but not unkind. Mark lost his job last month. We're barely keeping our own place. I'm sorry, but we don't have room. Just a few days. A week at most. Ella can sleep on the couch and I'll. I can't. I really can't. I wish I could, but I can't. The silence stretched between them, filled with all the things neither of them wanted to say. I'm sorry about Sean, Jennifer added softly. I really am. But you need to figure this out on your own. The line went dead. Lisa sat there, phone pressed to her ear, listening to nothing. Even her own sister had closed the door. In the back seat, Ella was humming a song from her favorite cartoon, completely unaware that they had nowhere to sleep that night. For 3 days, they lived in the Honda. Lisa parked behind a 24-hour gym, where she still had a membership she couldn't afford to cancel. She and Ella used the bathroom there, washing up in the sinks when the staff wasn't looking. They ate from the dollar menu at fast food restaurants. At night, Lisa reclined the front seat as far as it would go while Ella curled up in the back with Mr. Whiskers and a blanket. Tell me the story about Daddy and the fish, Ella whispered on the second night. Lisa closed her eyes, summoning the memory. Your daddy took me fishing on our first date. He was so sure he was going to catch the biggest fish I'd ever seen. But he didn't. No, baby. He fell in the lake trying to reach his fishing pole. Ella giggled. And you had to save him. I had to save him. Lisa's voice cracked. He was always better at talking than doing. But he loved us. You have to remember that. Whatever else was true, he loved us. Did he? The question surfaced before Lisa could stop it. If Sean had loved them, would he have gambled away their future? Would he have signed loan papers using her name without telling her? Would he have left them with nothing but debt and accusations? She pushed the thoughts away. Ella needed to believe her father was good. That was more important than the truth. On the third night, the Honda wouldn't start. Lisa turned the key again and again, listening to the engine sputter and die. The battery was gone. Just like everything else. She dropped her forehead against the steering wheel and felt the first real sob building in her chest. She couldn't break down. Not here. Not with Ella watching. But the tears came anyway, hot and silent, streaming down her face while her daughter slept in the back. The tow truck driver was kind. He recommended a mechanic 3 towns over who might give her a fair price. But fair was still $300 Lisa didn't have. She had $62 in her checking account and a maxed-out credit card she could no longer use. The mechanic let her leave the car in his lot. "I'll hold it for 2 weeks," he said, not unkindly. "After that, I gotta charge storage." Lisa nodded, barely hearing him. She and Ella stood on the side of the road with their belongings piled around them, and Lisa tried to think of a next move that didn't exist. A bus rumbled past, heading into town. Ella pointed at it. "Can we take the bus on our adventure?" "Not that kind of bus, baby." But the word stuck in Lisa's mind. Bus. Movement. Shelter. She picked up Ella, grabbed their bags, and started walking. There was a Walmart 2 miles down the road. They could sit there for a while. Use the bathroom. Figure out what came next. Except there was no next. There was only now, and now was a nightmare Lisa couldn't wake up from. They spent that night in the Walmart parking lot, huddled on a bench near the entrance. Security asked them to move twice. The second time, Lisa lied and said they were waiting for a ride. "Your ride's taking a long time," the guard said, not unkindly. "He'll be here soon." But no one was coming. Lisa knew that. She'd known it since Samantha had called her a killer and Jennifer had hung up the phone. She was alone in a way she'd never imagined possible. Ella fell asleep with her head in Lisa's lap. Lisa stroked her daughter's hair and watched other families come and go. Mothers with full carts, fathers carrying children, couples arguing about what to buy for dinner. Normal people living normal lives. She wondered what they'd think if they knew. If they saw past the tired woman on the bench and recognized desperation when it stared them in the face. Probably nothing. People were good at not seeing what made them uncomfortable. Around midnight, a woman approached. She was older, maybe 60, with gray hair pulled back in a bun. She held out a $20 bill. "For food," she said simply. Lisa's pride wanted to refuse. Her stomach won. "Thank you." The woman nodded and walked away, and Lisa felt something crack open inside her. Gratitude and shame mixing into something too complicated to name. $20. Enough for 2 more meals if they were careful. But then what? The next morning, Lisa and Ella walked. They had nowhere to go, so they just moved. Through neighborhoods and commercial strips and empty lots where the grass grew wild. That's when Lisa saw it. Tucked at the edge of an old junkyard, half hidden by weeds and rusted car parts, sat an abandoned bus. Not a city bus. A yellow school bus that had been left to rot. The paint was peeling, the tires flat, the windows cracked and filthy. But the door was unlocked. Lisa climbed inside, Ella's hand in hers, and looked around. The seats had been torn out long ago. The floor was covered in dirt and leaves and things Lisa didn't want to identify. It smelled like oil and decay. But it had walls. A roof. A door that closed. "Mommy, what is this place?" Lisa's voice came out steadier than she felt. "This is where we're staying. Just for a little while. Like camping." Exactly like camping. Ella's face brightened. She'd always wanted to go camping. Sean had promised to take her a dozen times and never followed through. Lisa set down their bags and looked around at the filthy shell of a bus. This was rock bottom. This was what happened when you lost everything and everyone turned away. She thought about Samantha's voice. "You killed him." She thought about Jennifer's refusal. "You need to figure this out on your own." She thought about Sean's lies, hidden behind smiles and promises that dissolved the moment he did. And she thought about Ella, 6 years old and trusting, believing her mother when she said everything would be okay. Lisa Moore had 2 choices. She could give up, let the weight of it all crush her, admit that Samantha was right and she was nothing without Sean's name attached to hers. Or she could survive. The decision wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a moment of inspiration or sudden strength. It was simply this: Ella needed her, and nothing else mattered more than that. Lisa found an old broom in the corner of the junkyard and started sweeping. The first night in the bus, Lisa didn't sleep at all. She sat with her back against the metal wall, listening to every sound outside. Footsteps crunching on gravel. Animals rustling through the junkyard. The distant hum of the highway. Each noise sent her heart racing, wondering if someone would come to kick them out of this too. Ella slept curled up in the sleeping bag Lisa had bought with the last of their money. A thin thing from a discount store that barely kept out the cold. Mr. Whiskers tucked under her chin, her breathing soft and steady. Lisa watched her daughter and felt the full weight of what she'd done. She'd taken them from a house to a car to a junkyard bus. Each step down felt like proof of every terrible thing Samantha had said about her. Maybe she really had killed Sean. Not with her hands, but with her needs, her expectations, her presence in his life. Maybe if he'd married someone else, someone easier, someone who didn't ask questions, he'd still be alive. The thoughts circled like vultures, picking at what was left of her. As dawn broke, pale light filtered through the cracked windows, and Lisa made herself stand up. Her body ached from the hard floor. Her mouth tasted like dust. But Ella would wake soon, and Lisa needed to be ready with a smile and a plan, even if both were lies. She stepped outside into the cool morning air. The junkyard spread out around them, acres of rusted metal and broken dreams. Someone's discarded furniture. A washing machine with its door hanging open. Tires stacked in crooked towers. This was their neighborhood now. Lisa walked the perimeter of the bus, assessing what she had to work with. The tires were flat but still attached. The engine was long dead, but the shell was intact. Most of the windows were cracked, but not completely shattered. It wasn't much, but it was more than nothing. She heard Ella stirring inside and climbed back up the steps. Her daughter sat up, rubbing her eyes, looking around at the dirty interior in the morning light. "Morning, baby. How'd you sleep?" "Good." Ella's voice was small. "Mommy, why does it smell funny?" "Because we haven't cleaned yet. Want to help me make this place better?" Ella nodded slowly, and Lisa saw the first flicker of doubt in her daughter's eyes. The camping story was wearing thin. They ate granola bars for breakfast, sitting on the bus floor. Lisa counted their remaining money. $42. That was it. That was all that stood between them and complete destitution. She needed a job. But she needed childcare to get a job. And she needed money to afford childcare. The circle had no exit. "Mommy, can we go home today?" The question landed like a punch. Lisa pulled Ella close, pressing her face into her daughter's hair so she wouldn't see the tears. "This is our home now, sweet girl. Just for a little while. But we're going to make it nice. You'll see. But I miss my room. And my toys. And Grammy's house." Grammy. The woman who'd thrown them out like garbage. "I know, baby. I know." Lisa spent that first full day trying to make the bus livable. She found a water spigot at the edge of the junkyard, probably against the rules to use, but she didn't care anymore. She filled an old bucket and used it to scrub the floor. The dirt came up in layers, revealing metal underneath that was pitted with rust but solid. She found cardboard boxes in a dumpster behind a grocery store and flattened them to cover the worst of the floor. Not much insulation, but better than nothing. Ella helped, carrying small pieces of trash outside, chattering about the birds she saw and the funny-shaped clouds. Her resilience broke Lisa's heart. 6 years old and already learning to survive. By afternoon, they'd cleared out most of the debris. The bus still looked terrible, but it no longer felt like a biohazard. Small victories. Lisa was dragging out a pile of old newspapers when a voice called out behind her. "You living in there?" She spun around. A man stood near the fence, older, maybe 70, wearing coveralls and a suspicious expression. Probably owned the junkyard. Lisa's stomach dropped. Here it came. The eviction. The end of even this. "We're just passing through," she said quickly. "We'll be gone soon." The man studied her, then looked at Ella, who was making a crown out of dandelions near the bus steps. "That your daughter?" "Yes." He was quiet for a long moment. Lisa braced herself. "Name's Raymond. I own this place." He gestured at the sprawling mess around them. "That bus has been sitting there for 5 years. Nobody wants it. You're welcome to stay as long as you need." Lisa's mouth fell open. "Really? Got some conditions. You keep it clean. Don't cause trouble. And if anyone asks, you're doing me a favor by watching the place at night." He pulled out a key ring and removed one. "Padlock for the gate. So you feel safer." He handed it to her, and Lisa took it with shaking hands. The metal was warm from his pocket. "Why?" Her voice cracked. "Why would you help us?" Raymond's face softened. "Lost my daughter 10 years back. She was about your age. Got in trouble, bad husband, whole mess. I didn't help when I should have. I can't fix that, but maybe I can fix this." He turned to leave, then paused. "There's a community center 2 blocks that way. They do free meals on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Might be good for the little one. Then he was gone, leaving Lisa standing there with a key in her hand and something she hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. That night, Lisa locked the gate for the first time and felt the smallest measure of safety return. They had permission to be here. They weren't trespassing. They weren't about to be moved along by police or security guards. It wasn't a house. It wasn't even close to normal. But it was theirs. Ella fell asleep quickly, exhausted from the day of cleaning and exploring. Lisa sat in the darkness, turning Raymond's key over in her hands. One act of kindness. That's all it took to pull her back from the edge. She thought about Sean's mother, about Jennifer, about every person who'd looked at her situation and turned away. And then she thought about Raymond, a stranger who'd given her mercy when she'd run out of places to ask for it. Maybe the world wasn't entirely cruel. Maybe there were still people who saw suffering and chose to help instead of judge. Lisa pulled out her phone. The screen showed 11 missed calls from debt collectors, 3 threatening emails, and a notification that her phone service would be suspended in 5 days if she didn't pay the bill. She ignored all of it and opened the Notes app. Started typing. Things we need. Blankets, real mattress or foam, cooking supplies, soap and cleaning stuff, clothes, Ella growing fast. Paint? The last one felt absurd. They were living in a junkyard bus, and she was thinking about paint. But something about it felt important. Like if she could make this place less gray, less hopeless, maybe they could survive it. She added another line. Jobs I can do with Ella. The list was short. Very short. But it was a start. The community center Raymond mentioned became their lifeline. Twice a week, Lisa and Ella walked the 2 blocks to eat hot meals served by volunteers who didn't ask questions. The food was simple: meatloaf, mashed potatoes, green beans, the kind of institutional cooking that tasted like heaven when you'd been living on granola bars and dollar menu burgers. Ella loved it. She'd sit at the long tables with other kids, swinging her legs and telling stories about their camping adventure in the special bus. The other children listened with wide eyes, and Lisa didn't correct her daughter's fantasy. Let her believe it was an adventure. Let her have that. It was at the community center that Lisa met Patricia. Patricia was a volunteer, maybe 50, with warm brown skin and hands that never stopped moving. She served food with efficiency and kindness, remembering every person's name after meeting them once. On their 3rd visit, she sat down across from Lisa while Ella played with blocks in the corner. You're staying somewhere close by? Lisa hesitated. She'd gotten good at deflecting questions. But something about Patricia's directness cut through her defenses. The old bus. In Raymond's junkyard. Patricia's eyebrows rose, but her expression stayed neutral. That must be hard. We're managing. I'm sure you are. Patricia leaned forward. Listen, I run a clothing drive here on Saturdays. People donate all kinds of things: clothes, blankets, household items. You're welcome to take whatever you need. No forms, no questions. Lisa's throat tightened. I can't just take charity. It's not charity. It's community. That's what we do here. We take care of each other. Patricia's voice was firm but gentle. Your pride won't keep your daughter warm at night, honey. Let people help. The words hit hard. Lisa blinked back tears. Okay. Thank you. Patricia squeezed her hand. Come Saturday, 9 in the morning, and bring that sweet girl of yours. She needs a winter coat. Saturday arrived cold and drizzly. Lisa and Ella walked to the community center under a shared umbrella, one of the few possessions Lisa had managed to keep from their old life. The clothing drive was set up in the main hall, tables piled high with donations. Patricia spotted them immediately and waved them over. Come on, let's find you some things. For the next hour, Patricia helped them sort through clothes. Warm sweaters for Ella. Jeans that actually fit. A winter coat with only a small stain on the sleeve. For Lisa, practical things: hoodies, socks, a heavy jacket. Take these too, Patricia said, handing over a stack of blankets. And this. She added a small camping stove and 2 pots. Patricia, this is too much. Nonsense. You need it, it's here, take it. She paused. You know what else we have? Art supplies. The kids' program just got a new donation. Old paint, brushes, construction paper. Want some for your daughter? Lisa thought about the bus, gray and depressing. She thought about Ella asking when they could go home. Yes. Please. Patricia loaded them up with supplies, then walked them to the door. Before they left, she pulled Lisa aside. I know a woman who runs a house cleaning business. Always needs help, and she's flexible with schedules. You could bring your daughter along to some jobs if needed. Pay is under the table but steady. Want me to ask? Lisa felt something shift in her chest. An opening. A possibility. Yes. Please, yes. I'll call her tonight. Come by Tuesday and I'll let you know. Lisa walked back to the bus with their arms full of supplies and something that felt dangerously close to optimism. Ella skipped beside her, dragging a bag of art supplies and chattering about all the pictures she was going to draw. When they got back, Lisa spread everything out inside the bus. The blankets made the space feel less harsh. The pots meant they could cook real food on the camp stove. The clothes meant they could stay warm through winter. And the paint. Lisa opened the cans Patricia had given them. Sunshine yellow, sky blue, forest green. Colors that had nothing to do with survival and everything to do with living. Can we paint now, Mommy? Please. Ella's face was bright with excitement, the first real joy Lisa had seen there in weeks. We can paint tomorrow. Today we plan where everything goes. They spent the evening arranging their new home. It was still a bus in a junkyard. It was still temporary and precarious and nowhere close to enough. But it was becoming something. And for the first time since Sean died, Lisa let herself believe they might actually make it through this. She just didn't know yet how far they'd have to fall before they could climb back up. The job Patricia arranged changed everything. Teresa Garcia ran a small house cleaning business with 3 employees and more clients than she could handle. She was 45, fast-talking, and skeptical when Patricia first called about Lisa. She's living where? In a bus. With her 6-year-old. Jesus. Okay, bring her by. I'll give her a shot. Lisa met Teresa on a Wednesday morning at a coffee shop near the community center. Ella sat beside her, coloring on napkins while the adults talked. Patricia says you need work. Flexible hours. That right? Yes, ma'am. Don't call me ma'am. Makes me feel ancient. Teresa studied Lisa with sharp eyes. Here's how this works. You clean houses. You show up on time. You don't steal. You don't break anything expensive. Cash payment every Friday. Some clients don't mind kids tagging along if they're quiet. Some do. You figure out childcare on those days. I can do that. Can you? Teresa's voice wasn't unkind, just direct. Because I need reliable. I don't need someone who's going to disappear when things get hard. Lisa met her eyes. Things are already hard. I'm not going anywhere. Something in Teresa's expression softened. All right, we'll try it. You start Monday. 6 in the morning. Wear clothes you don't mind ruining. They shook hands, and Lisa felt the first solid thing she'd held onto since Sean died. A job. Income. A path forward. The work was brutal. Lisa had cleaned her own house for years, but this was different. This was scrubbing other people's toilets, their showers, their kitchens. Getting on her hands and knees to reach baseboards and corners. Lifting heavy furniture. Breathing in chemical fumes until her head pounded. Her back ached. Her hands cracked and bled from the constant exposure to cleaning products. She fell into bed each night. Well, into the pile of blankets that served as a bed, so exhausted she could barely move. But the money was real. $60 a day. 5 days a week when Teresa had enough work. $300 a week. $1,200 a month. It wasn't enough to get an apartment. Not with her destroyed credit and the debts still piling up in Sean's name. But it was enough to buy food, to keep her phone turned on, to start thinking about what came next. Ella came along to about half the jobs. The ones where the homeowners were at work and didn't mind a quiet child sitting in the corner with her coloring books. Lisa taught her daughter to be invisible, to speak softly, to stay out of the way, to make herself small. It broke her heart every time. On the days Ella couldn't come, Patricia watched her at the community center. Another kindness Lisa couldn't repay. Another debt she carried that had nothing to do with money and everything to do with gratitude. 3 weeks into the job, Lisa came home to find someone waiting by the bus. Not Raymond. Not Patricia. A woman in her 30s, well-dressed, holding a clipboard. Lisa's stomach dropped. Social services. It had to be. Lisa Moore. Yes. I'm Hannah Price. I'm with Child Protective Services. We received a call about a child living in unsafe conditions. The world tilted. Lisa's hands went cold. My daughter is fine. She's safe. We have food, shelter, everything she needs. Hannah's face was professionally neutral. May I see inside? Lisa wanted to refuse. Wanted to grab Ella and run. But there was nowhere to run to, and refusing would only make things worse. Of course. She unlocked the bus door and climbed inside, Hannah following. In the last 3 weeks, Lisa had transformed the space as much as possible. The floors were clean. Blankets hung from the windows for privacy. Their clothes were folded in plastic bins. The camping stove sat in one corner with their small collection of pots and dishes neatly stacked. It was tidy, organized, but it was still a bus in a junkyard. Hannah walked through slowly, making notes. She opened the bins, checked the corners, examined the makeshift sleeping area where Ella's stuffed animals were arranged carefully on the pillow. Where's your daughter now? At the community center, with a volunteer who watches her while I work. And you're employed? Yes. House cleaning. 5 days a week. More notes. More silence. Lisa's heart hammered against her ribs. Finally, Hannah turned to face her. Ms. Moore, I can see you're trying. But this isn't appropriate housing for a child. She needs stability. A real home with heat, running water, proper sanitation. We have access to water at the community center. We eat there twice a week. She's in school. She's enrolled in school? Lisa's face burned. Not yet. We just moved here. I'm working on it. That was a lie. She hadn't enrolled Ella because enrollment required an address, utility bills, proof of residency, all things she didn't have. Ella had missed 3 weeks of first grade, and Lisa had been telling herself she'd figure it out soon. Hannah's expression tightened. Ms. Moore, I'm not here to punish you. I understand you're in a difficult situation, but my job is to ensure children's safety. I'm going to need to file a report. Please. Lisa's voice cracked. Please don't take her. She's all I have. I'm doing everything I can. I'm not taking her today, but you need to show improvement. Get her enrolled in school. Find stable housing. I'll be back in 30 days for a follow-up visit. If conditions haven't improved, we'll need to discuss alternative arrangements. Alternative arrangements. Foster care. Taking Ella away. Lisa felt her knees weaken. 30 days. I understand. Hannah handed her a card with a phone number. There are resources available. Shelters, transitional housing programs. Call this number. They can help. She left, and Lisa stood in the bus doorway watching her drive away. Then she sank to the floor and let herself cry for the first time since they'd moved in. She'd been so focused on surviving day to day that she hadn't thought about the bigger picture. Hadn't realized that surviving wasn't enough. The system didn't care that she was trying. It cared about addresses and stability and things Lisa couldn't provide. 30 days to fix everything that was broken. 30 days to become someone worthy of keeping her own child. It felt impossible. Lisa called the number Hannah had given her. Spent an hour on the phone being transferred from department to department. Every shelter was full with waiting lists months long. Transitional housing required sobriety programs or domestic violence history or specific qualifications Lisa didn't meet. I just need a place to live with my daughter. I understand, ma'am, but our programs have specific eligibility requirements. The words were kind, but the message was clear. She didn't fit. She was too employed for some programs, not employed enough for others. She had too much debt for housing assistance, not enough income for market-rate apartments. She existed in a gap that social services couldn't bridge. That night, after Ella fell asleep, Lisa stood outside the bus and looked at it with new eyes. This wasn't charming or temporary. This was failure made visible. Proof that she couldn't provide for her child. Sean's voice echoed in her memory. I'll take care of everything, Lisa. You just focus on Ella. She'd let him take care of everything, and look where that had gotten her. Raymond appeared from the shadows, making her jump. Didn't mean to scare you. Saw you standing out here looking troubled. I'm fine. That's what troubled people always say. He leaned against the fence. Want to tell me what happened? Lisa found herself explaining about Hannah, about the 30-day deadline, about the impossible task ahead of her. Raymond listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, You know what I see when I look at that bus? A disaster? I see someone who didn't quit. You could have given up weeks ago. Could have handed your daughter over to the system and walked away. But you didn't. You're fighting. Fighting isn't enough. It's a start. Raymond straightened up. I got a storage shed full of supplies. Paint, wood tools. You're welcome to whatever you need. And I know a guy who does electrical work. Owes me a favor. Maybe we can get some power running to that bus. Lisa stared at him. Why would you do that? Because my daughter needed someone to believe in her, and nobody did. I can't fix that. But I can believe in you. The words hit her like a physical thing. Belief. Such a simple concept, but she'd been running on empty for so long she'd forgotten what it felt like to have someone see her as anything other than a problem to solve or a failure to pity. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me yet. We got a lot of work to do. And you got 30 days. We better get started. The transformation began the next morning. Raymond opened his storage shed, and Lisa felt her breath catch. Cans of paint in every color. Lumber. Screws and nails. Basic tools. Things that would have cost hundreds of dollars she didn't have. Take what you need. I'll show you how to use what you don't know. For the next 2 weeks, Lisa worked 2 jobs. During the day, she cleaned houses for Teresa. At night, she transformed the bus. Raymond taught her how to patch holes in the metal walls, how to install simple shelving, how to frame out a small sleeping area for Ella that felt like a real bedroom. Patricia donated curtains and cushions from the community center storage. Teresa gave her leftover paint from a client's renovation, sunshine yellow that made the dingy interior come alive. Ella helped paint, her small hands leaving cheerful fingerprints on the walls that Lisa decided to keep as decoration. They painted clouds on the ceiling of Ella's sleeping area. They painted flowers along the baseboards. The bus stopped looking like a prison and started looking like a home. But the bigger problem remained. Lisa needed a physical address to enroll Ella in school. She needed proof of residency that didn't exist. She was sitting in the community center, staring at the enrollment forms, when Patricia sat down beside her. Still stuck. I can't give them a junkyard address. They'll just call CPS again. Patricia tapped her pen against the table. What if you used my address? Lisa's head snapped up. What? For school enrollment. For mail. Whatever you need. You're here most days anyway. It's not a lie, you're part of this community. Let me help. Patricia, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. Her voice was firm. My daughter is grown and gone. I got a 3-bedroom house and it's just me. Use my address. Enroll your baby in school. Give that CPS worker something to check off her list. Lisa's vision blurred with tears. Why does everyone keep helping me? Because that's what people do when they're not too broken to see someone else struggling. You'd do the same if positions were reversed. Would she? Lisa wanted to believe that. Wanted to think she'd be as generous as Raymond and Patricia and Teresa if she'd never lost everything. But she'd been that comfortable woman once, living in Sean's mother's house, making meals and raising Ella while the world happened somewhere else. And she couldn't remember ever really seeing the people who were struggling. She'd been too insulated, too safe. Maybe that was the gift in all this horror. She could see now. Really see. And if she ever climbed out of this hole, she'd never forget what it felt like to be invisible. Thank you, Lisa managed. I don't know how to repay. Pay it forward someday. That's all I ask. 3 days before Hannah's return visit, the bus was transformed. The exterior was still rough, still obviously an old school bus in a junkyard. But inside it glowed. Yellow walls brightened the space. Curtains hung in the windows, mismatched but clean. Ella's sleeping area had a real mattress donated by someone from the community center, dressed in sheets printed with stars. Shelves held their clothes in neat stacks. The camping stove sat on a small table Raymond had built. Raymond's electrician friend had run a line from the junkyard's power supply, so they had lights. Real lights. And a small space heater for the coming winter. It wasn't a house. It wasn't even close to normal. But it was clean and safe and filled with evidence that someone cared about the child living there. Lisa had enrolled Ella in school using Patricia's address. Her daughter wore donated clothes that fit, carried a backpack filled with supplies from the community center, and attended first grade 5 days a week. On paper, Everything looked manageable. Stable. The reality was more complicated. Lisa was exhausted, barely sleeping, working herself sick to maintain the illusion of okay. The debts were still there, the collectors still calling. She'd received a summons to court over one of Sean's loans, a hearing she had no idea how to handle. But the bus looked good. Ella looked healthy. And when Hannah knocked on the bus door exactly 30 days after her first visit, Lisa opened it with her head high. Hannah stepped inside and stopped. Her eyebrows rose as she looked around. Ms. Moore, this is quite different. We've made some improvements. Hannah walked through the space, examining everything. The sleeping area, the kitchen setup, the homework corner where Ella's schoolwork was posted on the wall. Your daughter is enrolled in school? Yes. Whitmore Elementary. Started 2 weeks ago. And you're still employed? Yes. Same job. 5 days a week. Hannah made notes, her expression unreadable. Finally, she turned to Lisa. This is still not ideal housing. You understand that. I do. But it's clear you're making every effort. Your daughter appears healthy and cared for. She's attending school regularly. Hannah paused. I'm going to close this case for now. But Ms. Moore, you need to keep working toward more stable housing. If circumstances change, if anything happens that puts your daughter at risk, I'll need to intervene. Do you understand? Yes. Thank you. Hannah left, and Lisa closed the door behind her, leaning against it as relief flooded through her. They'd passed. For now, they'd passed. But even as she celebrated this small victory, Lisa knew it was fragile. One missed rent payment on the junkyard space that Raymond was letting her stay in for free. One complaint from a neighbor. One bad day that spiraled out of control. She was walking a tightrope with no net, and the only thing keeping her balanced was the kindness of people who barely knew her. It couldn't last forever. The question was, could she build something permanent before it all fell apart again? Winter came early that year. By November, frost covered the junkyard each morning, making the metal bus cold enough to see your breath inside. The space heater Raymond had helped install kept the worst of it at bay, but Lisa woke most mornings with her fingers numb and her body aching from the chill. Ella complained less than she should have. She'd bundle up in layers, 2 shirts, a sweater, her winter coat, and do her homework by the heater's glow. Sometimes Lisa caught her daughter staring out the window at houses in the distance, the ones with smoke rising from chimneys and lights glowing warm behind curtains. What are you thinking about, baby? Nothing. But Ella's voice carried weight that shouldn't belong to a 6-year-old. Lisa was cleaning a house in the suburbs when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Debt collectors had learned her new number somehow. But something made her pick up. Is this Lisa Moore? Yes. This is Whitmore Elementary. Your daughter became ill during class. We need you to pick her up immediately. Lisa's heart dropped. Is she okay? She has a high fever. The nurse says she should see a doctor. A doctor? That meant money Lisa didn't have. Her cleaning job didn't come with health insurance. I'll be right there. She told Teresa she had an emergency. Teresa's face tightened, but she nodded. Go. But Lisa, this is the 3rd time this month you've left early. I need reliable. I know. I'm sorry. It won't happen again. But they both knew it might. Lisa caught 2 buses to reach the school, anxiety climbing with each stop. When she finally got to the nurse's office, Ella was curled up on a cot, her face flushed and her eyes glazed. Mommy, she whispered. I don't feel good. Lisa pressed her hand to Ella's forehead. Burning up. The nurse handed her paperwork. She needs to see a doctor. This fever is high. And she mentioned some stomach pain. Could be flu, could be something more serious. Could be something we can't afford to treat, Lisa thought. She carried Ella to the bus stop, her daughter's small body radiating heat. At the free clinic, they waited 3 hours before seeing a nurse practitioner who examined Ella with quick, efficient movements. Looks like a bad flu. But with the stomach pain, I want to rule out appendicitis. She needs proper testing. I'm recommending you take her to the ER. Can't you just give her medicine? The nurse practitioner's eyes were kind but firm. Ms. Moore, if this is her appendix and it bursts, she could die. You need to take her to the hospital. The ER bill would be catastrophic. Lisa knew that before they even walked through the automatic doors. But what choice did she have? Let her daughter suffer? Risk her life? They waited 6 hours in the emergency room. Ella dozed fitfully in Lisa's lap, while around them the machinery of crisis medicine churned. Gunshot victims, car accidents, overdoses, real emergencies that made their situation feel small and privileged by comparison. Finally, a doctor examined Ella. Ordered tests. CT scan, blood work, the works. It's not appendicitis, he said eventually. Severe flu with some gastric inflammation. She needs rest, fluids, and antibiotics. I'm prescribing medication. Keep her hydrated. If the fever doesn't break in 48 hours, bring her back. He handed Lisa the prescription and left. No judgment, no questions about how she'd pay for any of this. Just clinical efficiency and a bill that would arrive later like a bomb in an envelope. The medication cost $42 at the pharmacy. Lisa counted out the cash from her cleaning money, watching her reserves drain away. They took another bus back to the junkyard. It was dark by the time they arrived, frost already forming on the metal. Lisa carried Ella inside and tucked her into bed with every blanket they owned piled on top. I'm cold, Mommy. I know, baby. The medicine will help soon. But the space heater wasn't enough. Not for a sick child. Not for winter in Georgia. Lisa sat beside Ella's bed, watching her daughter shiver despite the blankets, and felt the full weight of her failure. She'd thought they were making progress. Thought they were climbing out. But one illness, one emergency, and here they were again at the edge of disaster. The ER bill would come. Probably thousands of dollars she couldn't pay. More debt in her name, more proof she couldn't handle this. Maybe Samantha had been right. Maybe Ella would be better off somewhere else. With someone who could give her a real home, real heat, real medical care without panic. The thought made Lisa sick, but she couldn't shake it. Ella's fever broke after 3 days, but something else broke with it. Lisa missed 5 days of work caring for her daughter. When she called Teresa to explain, there was a long pause on the other end of the line. Lisa, I need someone I can count on. I know. I'm sorry. My daughter was really sick, I couldn't. I understand. But I can't keep holding your position if you're not here. I've got clients complaining about inconsistency. The words hung between them. Lisa felt the ground shifting beneath her feet again. Are you firing me? Another pause. I'm reducing your hours. 2 days a week instead of 5. If that works for you. 2 days. Barely enough to buy food, let alone save for anything better. Okay, thank you. She hung up and stared at the phone. One emergency and her fragile stability had collapsed. Again. That night, she walked to the community center to tell Patricia what happened. Patricia listened, her face grave. There's an opening at the food bank warehouse. Loading and sorting donations. It's minimum wage, but they need someone immediately. Want me to call? Yes. Please. Lisa took the warehouse job, working evening shifts after her reduced cleaning schedule. The work was physical, lifting boxes, organizing donations, loading trucks. Her body protested every movement. But she needed the money. The problem was childcare. Patricia couldn't watch Ella every evening. Lisa started bringing her daughter to the warehouse, letting her sit in the break room doing homework while Lisa worked. Her supervisor noticed on the 3rd night. You can't keep bringing your kid here. I'm sorry. I don't have anywhere else for her to go. That's not my problem. Company policy. No children in the workplace. Lisa felt tears burning behind her eyes. Please. Just until I figure something else out. 1 more week. Then you need to sort it or you're done here too. 1 more week. Another deadline. Another impossible problem to solve. The letter arrived on a Tuesday. Lisa had been dreading it, checking the mail at Patricia's address every day. When she saw the return address, Regional Medical Center, her hands started shaking. She opened it standing in Patricia's kitchen. Account balance. $8,347 payment due immediately. $8,000 for 1 ER visit. $8,000 she'd never have. The letter continued with warnings about collections, credit reporting, legal action. The words blurred together. Patricia came in from the living room, took one look at Lisa's face, and guided her to a chair. What is it? Lisa handed her the letter. Patricia read it, her mouth tightening. This is criminal. For a flu diagnosis. I can't pay this. Lisa's voice came out hollow. I can barely afford food. How am I supposed to pay $8,000? You're not. You call them and set up a payment plan. $10 a month if that's all you can manage. They'll accept it. And the debt collectors Sean left? Those don't accept $10 a month. They want thousands. They're threatening to sue. Let them sue. They can't take what you don't have. But they could take Ella. That's what Lisa didn't say out loud. They couldn't take money she didn't have, but the system could decide she was an unfit mother and take the only thing that mattered. She thanked Patricia and walked back to the bus in a daze. The space that had felt like an achievement weeks ago now felt like a cage. Bright yellow walls couldn't change the fact that they were living in a junkyard. Curtains couldn't hide the frost creeping through the windows. Ella was at school. The bus was empty. Lisa sat on the floor and let herself break down completely. Sobs tore through her chest, ugly and desperate. She'd tried so hard. Worked 2 jobs. Transformed this space. Kept Ella healthy and in school. Done everything right. And it wasn't enough. It would never be enough. The debt was too deep. The system too rigid. The gap between poverty and stability too wide to bridge on minimum wage and sheer willpower. Her phone buzzed. A text from a number she didn't recognize. Lisa Moore? This is Samantha. I heard about your situation. We need to talk. Lisa stared at the message, her stomach twisting. Samantha. The woman who'd thrown her out. Who'd blamed her for Sean's death. How did she even know where to find Lisa? What could she possibly want? She should delete the message. Block the number. Samantha had made her position clear months ago. But desperation makes you do things pride would never allow. Lisa typed back. What do you want? The response came immediately. To see my granddaughter. Can we meet? Lisa told herself she was only agreeing to meet because Ella deserved to know her grandmother. That it had nothing to do with the electric bill she couldn't pay or the warehouse job she was about to lose or the mountain of medical debt crushing her. But that would be a lie. They met at a diner halfway across town. Samantha was already there when Lisa arrived, sitting in a booth by the window. She looked older than Lisa remembered. Thinner. Grief had carved new lines in her face. Thank you for coming. Samantha's voice was careful, like she was approaching a wounded animal. What do you want? To apologize. Lisa hadn't expected that. She sat down slowly, waiting. I was wrong, Samantha continued. About you. About what happened with Sean. I was angry and grieving, and I took it out on you. That wasn't fair. The words should have felt good. Vindication. But Lisa felt nothing except exhaustion. Why now? I saw you. About a month ago. At the grocery store with Ella. You didn't see me, but I watched you. Watched how careful you were, counting every item, putting things back. And I realized what I'd done. I threw you out when you needed help most, and you survived anyway. Samantha's eyes were wet. Patricia from the community center is a friend of mine. She told me what you've been through. The bus. The jobs. How hard you're fighting. Of course. Everyone knew everyone in this town. Privacy was a luxury for people who didn't need help. If you came here to tell me you were wrong, fine. You were wrong. Is that all? No. Samantha pulled an envelope from her purse. I want to help. I can't undo what I did, but I can help now. She pushed the envelope across the table. Lisa opened it. Inside was a check. $5,000. Lisa's hands started shaking. I can't take this. It's not charity. It's what I should have given you months ago. It's Ella's. Sean had a life insurance policy through work. Small one. $5,000. It came to me since I was the beneficiary on his old policy, and he never updated it. But it should be yours. Lisa stared at the check. $5,000. Enough to pay down some of the ER bill. Enough to survive another few months. Enough to breathe. But taking it from Samantha felt like swallowing poison. I don't want your money. Then don't take it for you. Take it for Ella. She's my granddaughter. Let me do this one thing right. Lisa wanted to refuse. Wanted to throw the check in Samantha's face and walk out with her head high. But pride was another luxury she couldn't afford. I want to see her, Samantha added. I want to be part of her life. I know I have no right to ask, but I'm asking anyway. There it was. The real price. Money in exchange for access to Ella. For Samantha to play grandmother after abandoning them when it mattered most. Lisa looked at the check, then at Samantha's face. The older woman looked desperate. Haunted. Maybe she really did regret what she'd done. Or maybe she just couldn't live with the guilt. I need to think about it, Lisa said finally. Of course. But Lisa, the money is yours regardless. No strings. I owe you that much. Lisa took the check and left without another word. She walked to the bus in a daze, the paper burning in her pocket. $5,000. Salvation and compromise wrapped in one piece of paper. That night, Lisa sat in the bus with the check on the table in front of her. Ella was asleep, her breathing steady now that the fever had passed. Taking the money felt like admitting defeat, like proving she couldn't make it on her own, like validating everything Samantha had said about her being weak and dependent. But refusing it meant staying on this knife's edge forever. Meant watching Ella shiver through winter. Meant risking another emergency that would destroy them completely. She thought about Sean's lies, about the debt he'd left her, about his mother's cruelty, and she thought about Ella, innocent in all of this, deserving of warmth and stability and a mother who wasn't drowning. Lisa picked up the check. Tomorrow she'd deposit it. She'd pay the ER bill and keep the lights on and buy Ella a real winter coat. She'd take Samantha's money and let her see Ella. Not because she forgave her. Not because it was fair. But because sometimes survival meant swallowing your pride and accepting help from the people who hurt you most. The yellow walls of the bus seemed dimmer suddenly. The transformation she'd been so proud of felt hollow. She'd built something beautiful from ruins. But it wasn't enough to escape the past. Sean's mother still held power over her future, and Lisa had just agreed to let her back in. The bus was still a cage. It had just gotten a little more expensive to maintain. The money should have been a relief. Instead, it felt like a chain. Lisa deposited the check and immediately paid half the ER bill, negotiating a payment plan for the rest. She bought Ella a proper winter coat, warm boots, thick socks. She paid 2 months ahead on the electricity to the junkyard. She bought groceries without counting every dollar. For 3 weeks, they weren't drowning. They were just treading water. Then Samantha started calling. I'd like to take Ella for the afternoon. Just to the park. Get some ice cream. Not yet. When then? I gave you the money, Lisa. I thought we had an understanding. There it was. The real cost. Lisa had known it was coming, but hearing it out loud still made her stomach turn. I said I'd think about it. I didn't promise anything. She's my granddaughter. I have rights. No, you don't. You threw us away. You don't get to buy your way back into her life. The silence on the other end was cold. I see. So you'll take my money but deny me access to my own flesh and blood. The money was Sean's. It belonged to Ella. You said no strings. I'm not asking for much. Just time with her. Is that so unreasonable? It should have been. But Lisa was tired. So tired. And a small, terrible part of her wondered if maybe Ella deserved to know her grandmother. If maybe denying that relationship was just another way Lisa was failing her daughter. 1 hour, she said finally. At the community center. With me present. That's what I'm offering. Take it or leave it. Another pause. Fine. Saturday. 2 o'clock. Lisa hung up feeling sick. She'd set a boundary, but it felt like the first crack in a dam. Samantha would push for more. She always did. Saturday arrived cold and gray. Lisa brought Ella to the community center, where Samantha waited with a large bag of wrapped presents. Ella's eyes went wide. Who's that? Your grandmother. Your daddy's mom. I have a grandmother? The innocence of the question broke Lisa's heart. Ella was 6 years old and didn't know her own grandmother because Samantha had chosen cruelty over family. Samantha knelt down, her face soft. Hi, sweetheart. I'm your Grammy. I've missed you so much. Ella looked at Lisa for permission. Lisa nodded, and her daughter stepped forward cautiously. Are those presents for me? They are. Would you like to open them? Lisa watched Samantha shower Ella with gifts, toys, books, clothes. Things Lisa couldn't afford to buy. Each present felt like an accusation. See what I can give her that you can't? Ella was delighted, spinning in a new dress, hugging a stuffed unicorn. She laughed, and the sound was so pure Lisa wanted to cry. When the hour ended, Ella threw her arms around Samantha. Can you come back? Please. Of course, baby. Anytime your mommy says I can. The way she said it, so sweet on the surface, made Lisa's teeth grind, making herself the good guy and Lisa the gatekeeper. On the walk back to the bus, Ella chattered nonstop about Grammy and the presents and how nice she was. Why didn't I see her before? It's complicated, baby. Is it because Daddy died? Sort of. I'm glad I have a Grammy now. She's really nice. Lisa said nothing. She couldn't explain to a 6-year-old how the nice woman bearing gifts was the same one who'd called her mother a killer and thrown them into the street. Samantha called 3 days later. Ella looked so thin. Is she eating enough? The criticism landed like a slap. She's fine. I'd like to take her for a weekend. Give you a break. Let her stay in a real house with heat and a proper bed. No. Lisa, be reasonable. She's living in a bus. Don't you want better for her? I'm giving her the best I can. Is living in a junkyard really the best? What happens when winter gets worse? What happens when she gets sick again? The questions were daggers, each one hitting exactly where Lisa was most vulnerable. We're managing. Are you? Patricia told me you lost hours at your cleaning job. That you're working at a warehouse now. How long before you lose that too? Lisa's blood ran cold. Patricia told you that? She's worried about you. About Ella. We all are. Patricia, her ally, her friend, reporting back to Samantha. The betrayal stung worse than anything else. I need to go. Think about what I'm offering. A warm home. Stability. Everything Ella deserves. Lisa hung up and immediately called Patricia. Did you tell Samantha about my jobs? Patricia's sigh came through the phone. She asked how you were doing. I was honest. You had no right. Lisa, she's trying to help. She's trying to take my daughter. That's not, look, maybe she could help. Maybe Ella's staying with her for a bit wouldn't be the worst thing. The words hit like physical blows. Even Patricia, the woman who'd believed in her, thought Lisa was failing. I thought you were on my side. I am. That's why I'm saying this. You're exhausted. You're barely surviving. Maybe accepting help isn't failure. Maybe it's wisdom. Lisa ended the call without responding. She stood outside the bus, shaking with rage and fear and something darker she didn't want to name. Everyone thought she was failing. Maybe they were right. 2 weeks later, the warehouse let her go. Budget cuts. Last hired, first fired. Nothing personal. Lisa cleaned out her locker in a daze. That was it. Back to 2 days a week cleaning houses. Less than $200 a week. Not enough. She applied everywhere. Fast food, retail, gas stations. Anything that would hire her. But flexible scheduling for a single mother with a 6-year-old? No one wanted that liability. The money from Samantha was dwindling. Lisa had tried to stretch it, but between food, electricity, and the payment plan for the medical debt, it disappeared faster than she could track. She started skipping meals. Telling Ella she'd already eaten. Watching her daughter finish dinner while Lisa's stomach cramped with hunger. Every calorie went to Ella. Every dollar. Everything. The bus that had felt like hope started feeling like a tomb. One night, the space heater died. Lisa plugged it in, unplugged it, tried different outlets. Nothing. Dead. The temperature outside was 32 degrees. Inside the bus, their breath formed clouds. Lisa wrapped Ella in every blanket they owned and held her close. Her daughter's teeth chattered. I'm cold, Mommy. I know, baby. Close your eyes. We'll be warm soon. But they wouldn't be. Lisa knew that. She lay awake all night, shivering, wondering how much longer she could keep doing this. Morning came gray and frozen. Lisa walked Ella to school, then went to Raymond's workshop at the junkyard. The heater died. Raymond looked up from the engine he was working on. I'll see what I can do. Might be able to fix it. And if you can't? His expression was grave. Then you need to figure something else out. Lisa, I'm not trying to scare you, but you can't keep a kid in that bus without heat. It's dangerous. I know. There's a shelter on Miller Street. They take families. Maybe just until. No shelters. Lisa's voice was firm. They ask too many questions. CPS gets involved. I won't risk losing her. You might lose her anyway if she freezes. The words hung in the cold air. Raymond wasn't being cruel. He was being honest. Lisa thanked him and walked back to the bus. She sat inside, staring at the yellow walls she'd painted with so much hope. The curtains Patricia had given her. The shelves Raymond had helped her build. All of it meaningless if she couldn't keep Ella warm and safe. Her phone rang. Samantha. Lisa stared at the screen for a long moment before answering. What? I heard about your heater. Patricia told me. Of course she did. We're fine. Lisa, stop. You're not fine. Let me help. Let Ella stay with me for a few weeks. Just until you get back on your feet. So you can convince her she's better off with you? So you can take her permanently? That's not what this is about. She's my granddaughter. I love her. And right now, you're choosing pride over her well-being. The accusation landed like a hammer. Was she? Was Lisa's stubborn refusal to accept help actually hurting Ella? Just think about it, Samantha pressed. A warm bed. 3 meals a day. No more sleeping in a frozen bus. Isn't that what's best for her? Lisa's throat closed. She couldn't speak. I'll call you tomorrow. Please, Lisa. Think about what's best for Ella, not what's best for your ego. The line went dead. Lisa sat in the freezing bus and realized she was at the edge. The very edge of everything she'd been fighting to prevent. She'd survived homelessness, debt, loss, betrayal. She'd built something from nothing. She'd fought so hard. But maybe fighting wasn't enough. Maybe love meant knowing when to let go. The thought made her want to die. But it wouldn't go away. That night, Lisa tucked Ella into bed with every piece of clothing they owned layered over her small body. Her daughter's face was pale, her lips faintly blue. Mommy, can we go to Grammy's house? She said it's warm there. Maybe, baby. We'll see. I don't like being cold. I know. I'm sorry. It's okay. Ella's small hand found Lisa's. You're doing your best. The words destroyed her. This child, this perfect innocent child, comforting her mother while freezing in a junkyard bus. Lisa had failed. Completely and utterly failed. After Ella fell asleep, Lisa stepped outside. The stars were bright and cold above. She pulled out her phone and stared at Samantha's contact. One call. That's all it would take. One admission that she couldn't do this. That Samantha was right. Her finger hovered over the screen. Then she heard it. A sound from inside the bus. Coughing. Wet and harsh. Lisa ran inside. Ella was sitting up, coughing so hard her small body shook. When she pulled her hand away from her mouth, there was blood on her palm. Mommy. Lisa's world stopped. Not again. Not another emergency. Not when she had nothing left to give. She grabbed Ella, wrapped her in blankets, and ran. The ER doctor's face was serious. Too serious. Your daughter has pneumonia. Severe. We need to admit her. Lisa's legs went weak. For how long? At least 3 days. Maybe longer depending on how she responds to treatment. 3 days in the hospital. 3 days of bills Lisa couldn't pay. 3 days of proving to the universe that she couldn't keep her child safe. Can I stay with her? Of course. We'll get her set up in pediatrics. They moved Ella to a room with bright walls and cartoon animals painted near the ceiling. Nurses hooked her up to IVs and oxygen. Her daughter looked so small in the hospital bed, surrounded by machines and tubes. Am I going to be okay, Mommy? Lisa forced a smile she didn't feel. Yes, baby. The doctors are going to make you all better. Can Grammy come visit? The question shouldn't have hurt as much as it did. But there it was. In her worst moment, Ella wanted Samantha. Maybe tomorrow. Let's just rest tonight. Lisa sat in the chair beside the bed and watched her daughter drift into medicated sleep. The rhythmic beep of monitors filled the silence. Each sound a reminder of how close she'd come to losing everything that mattered. A nurse came in to check vitals. She was young, maybe late 20s, with kind eyes. Is there anyone who can bring you a change of clothes? Something to eat? Lisa shook her head. I'm fine. The nurse hesitated. There's a family room down the hall. Showers, a couch if you need to rest. And the cafeteria provides meal vouchers for parents of admitted children. Small mercies. Lisa thanked her and stayed put. She wouldn't leave Ella's side. Around midnight, her phone buzzed. A text from Samantha. Patricia told me Ella's in the hospital. I'm coming tomorrow. Lisa stared at the message. Patricia again. Her so-called friend who kept feeding information to the enemy. She should tell Samantha not to come. Should protect this space, keep control of the situation. But she was too tired to fight. Too exhausted to care. Visiting hours start at 10 a.m. That was all she could manage. Samantha arrived at 10 on the dot, carrying flowers and a stuffed bear bigger than Ella. "Oh, sweetheart." She rushed to the bedside, her face crumpling. "My poor baby." Ella's face lit up despite her obvious discomfort. "Grammy, you came." "Of course I came. Grammy's here now." Lisa watched from her chair, invisible. Samantha fussed over Ella, arranging flowers, fluffing pillows, asking the nurses questions Lisa had already asked. Taking over. After an hour, Samantha turned to Lisa. "Why don't you go get some rest? Take a shower. I'll stay with her." "I'm not leaving." "Lisa, you look terrible. When's the last time you slept?" "I'm fine." Samantha's expression hardened. "This is exactly what I was talking about. You're running yourself into the ground and Ella's suffering for it. She has pneumonia. That's not my fault. Isn't it? She was living in a freezing bus. No heat. No proper care. What did you think would happen?" The words were bullets, each one finding its mark. Lisa felt her face burn with shame and rage. "Get out. I'm not leaving my granddaughter." "Then I will." Lisa stood up and walked out, her whole body shaking. She made it to the bathroom before the tears came. Huge, gasping sobs that she tried to muffle against her hands. Samantha was right. This was Lisa's fault. She'd kept Ella in that bus out of pride, out of stubborn refusal to admit defeat. And now her daughter was paying the price. She splashed cold water on her face and stared at herself in the mirror. Hollow eyes. Gaunt cheeks. She looked like a ghost of the person she'd been before Sean died. Maybe she was. When she returned to the room, a social worker was waiting. "Ms. Moore, I'm Jennifer Chun from Hospital Social Services. Can we talk?" Lisa's stomach dropped. "About what?" "Your daughter's care. And her living situation." Of course. Another investigator. Another person ready to judge her. They sat in a small office down the hall. Jennifer had a kind face but professional distance. The sort of person trained to deliver bad news gently. "I understand you and Ella are currently living in a bus?" "Temporarily. We're working on getting an apartment." "I see. And you're employed?" "Yes. Part-time cleaning." "What's your monthly income?" Lisa did the math quickly. 2 days a week at $60 per day. About $500. Jennifer made notes. "And your monthly expenses?" How could Lisa explain? Food, electricity to the junkyard, phone bill, the payment plan for the last ER visit, and now this hospitalization. "It varies." "Ms. Moore, I'm not here to judge. I'm here to help. But I need to be honest with you. Your daughter's pneumonia was likely caused or worsened by her living conditions. Cold, damp, inadequate shelter. If she returns to the same environment, she could get sick again. Worse. I know. Do you have anywhere else she could stay? Family? Friends?" Lisa thought about Patricia, who'd betrayed her confidence. About Jennifer, her sister, who'd turned her away. About Samantha, who was probably outside this office right now convincing Ella that Grammy's house was better than anything Mommy could provide. Her grandmother wants her to stay with her. Jennifer's face softened. Would that be a safe environment? Yes. Then maybe that's the best option. Just temporarily. Until you can secure stable housing. There it was. The impossible choice. Give up her daughter or watch her suffer. How long? That depends on you. How long until you can provide adequate housing? Lisa wanted to laugh. Or scream. How long? Forever, probably. She was trapped in a cycle she couldn't break. No money for an apartment without a better job. No better job without childcare. No childcare without money. I don't know. I'm going to recommend Ella be discharged to her grandmother's care once she's medically cleared. You'll have visitation rights, of course. This isn't a custody change, just a temporary placement for her health and safety. The words were gentle, but they meant the same thing. Lisa was losing her daughter. Do I have a choice? You always have a choice. But if you take her back to inadequate housing and she gets sick again, CPS will have to intervene more formally. Translation: give her up now voluntarily, or have her taken by force later. Okay, Lisa whispered. Okay. Jennifer squeezed her hand. You're doing the right thing. For her. But it didn't feel right. It felt like dying. Lisa told Ella that night after Samantha had left. Baby, you're going to stay with Grammy for a little while when you leave the hospital. Ella's face brightened. Really? At her house? Yes. Will you come too? No, sweetie. Just you. But I'll visit. I promise. Why can't you come? How could she explain? How could she tell a 6-year-old that her mother had failed so completely that she couldn't keep her warm and safe? Mommy needs to work. To get us a new place to live. A real house like we used to have. With my own room? Yes. With your own room. Another lie. Another promise she couldn't keep. Ella nodded, accepting this like she'd accepted everything else. Okay, but you'll visit lots, right? Every day if they let me. And then I can come home? Then you can come home. Lisa held her daughter close, breathing in her strawberry shampoo smell, memorizing the weight of her small body. This might be the last time she held Ella like this. The last time Ella was truly hers. They discharged Ella 3 days later. Samantha came to pick her up, all efficiency and gratitude. Thank you for being reasonable about this, Lisa. It's the right choice. Lisa didn't respond. She helped Ella gather her things, the stuffed animals, the flowers, the new pajamas Samantha had brought. Everything a child could want except her mother. At the hospital entrance, Samantha's car was waiting. New and clean and warm. Everything the bus wasn't. Lisa knelt down to Ella's level. I love you so much. Remember that, okay? I love you too, Mommy. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. She watched them drive away. Watched until the car disappeared. Then she stood in the cold December air and felt everything inside her go numb. She'd given up her daughter. Voluntarily. Handed her over to the woman who'd thrown them out months ago. This was rock bottom. This was what failure looked like. The bus felt enormous and empty without Ella. Lisa sat on the floor surrounded by her daughter's things. The clothes she'd outgrown. The drawings she'd made. The stuffed cat, Mr. Whiskers, that she'd forgotten to take. Lisa held the worn toy and finally let herself break completely. Not the controlled crying she'd been doing for months. This was something deeper. Grief that came from the core of her being. She'd lost Sean. Lost their home. Lost her dignity and her stability and her sense of self. And now she'd lost Ella. What was left? What was the point of fighting if she had nothing to fight for? The yellow walls she'd painted with such hope mocked her. The curtains. The shelves. All of it was meaningless without Ella's laughter filling the space. Lisa looked at the camping stove, the one she'd used to make dinner for her daughter every night. She thought about turning on the gas and just letting go. It would be easy. Painless. An end to the constant struggle. Her phone buzzed. A text from Teresa. Hey, heard about Ella. I have 3 full days of work next week if you want them. Clients loved you before. Let me know. 3 full days. More money. A chance to rebuild. Lisa stared at the message. Teresa was offering her another shot. More than she deserved. She picked up Mr. Whiskers, the stuffed cat Ella had left behind. Pressed it to her chest. Ella hadn't given up on her. Even now, believing she'd see her mother tomorrow, Ella trusted that Lisa would keep fighting. Could she do it? Could she claw her way back from this? Build something real enough to bring Ella home? She didn't know. But maybe that was okay. Maybe not knowing was part of it. Maybe faith wasn't certainty. Maybe it was choosing to try even when failure seemed inevitable. Lisa texted Teresa back, yes. Thank you. I'll be there. Then she stood up, placed Mr. Whiskers carefully on Ella's pillow, and looked around the empty bus. This wasn't the end. This was just the lowest point. And the only way left to go was up. 3 months changed everything. Lisa threw herself into work with an intensity that bordered on obsession. Teresa gave her full-time hours again, impressed by her reliability. Lisa cleaned houses like her life depended on it, because it did. Every dollar went into a savings account. No eating out. No extras. Rice and beans for dinner. Walking instead of taking the bus. She lived like a monk, single-minded in purpose. Get Ella back. That was all that mattered. She visited her daughter every Tuesday and Thursday evening at Samantha's house. Court-approved visitation. 2 hours supervised, with Samantha watching from the kitchen like a warden. Ella looked healthier. Better fed. Her clothes were new, her hair neatly braided. She talked about her school, her friends, the piano lessons Grammy had enrolled her in. Each visit broke Lisa's heart a little more. Not because Ella was unhappy, but because she was thriving without her mother. When can I come home, Mommy? Soon, baby. I'm working on it. The same answer every time. Ella stopped asking after the first month. Raymond had an idea. You know that empty lot behind the junkyard? I own it. Been sitting there for years. What if we put a tiny house on it? Something small but permanent. Real foundation, real walls. Lisa looked at him like he'd lost his mind. I can't afford to build a house. You'd be surprised what you can do with salvage and sweat. I've got materials, tools, time. You've got motivation. We could do this. Why would you help me like this? Raymond's face was serious. Because I didn't help my daughter when she needed it, and she's gone now. Can't fix that. But maybe I can fix this. They started the next weekend. The tiny house was barely 200 square feet. A wooden frame, salvaged windows, insulation from a construction site dumpster. It wasn't pretty, but it was solid. Lisa worked every spare hour, hammering nails until her hands blistered, learning to use power tools, measuring, cutting, building. Teresa heard about the project and showed up with paint samples. Every house needs color. Patricia came too, apologetic and humble. I'm sorry for telling Samantha about your business. I thought I was helping. Lisa wanted to stay angry, but anger was a luxury she couldn't afford. Help me with the wiring. They worked together in silence that slowly became something warmer. Not forgiveness exactly, but maybe understanding. Others joined. People from the community center. Clients whose houses Lisa cleaned. A plumber who installed a basic bathroom. An electrician who connected them to the grid legally. The tiny house grew piece by piece into something real. Lisa filed paperwork with the county. Applied for a permit to live on Raymond's land. Paid the fees with money she'd saved from 3 months of endless work. A housing inspector came, checked the structure, the electrical, the plumbing. He was a middle-aged man with a clipboard and a skeptical expression. This is pretty small. It meets minimum square footage requirements. Barely. He checked boxes, took photos. You planning to live here alone? With my daughter. She's 6. His expression softened. She's the one staying with her grandmother? Yes. Patricia mentioned you at church. Said you've been working hard to get her back. Lisa's throat tightened. People talked. Everyone knew her story. She'd become the town project, the struggling mother everyone watched. I'm doing my best. He finished his inspection and handed her a paper. You passed. Congratulations. It's not much, but it's solid. You built something real here. The words meant more than he knew. Lisa called the social worker, Jennifer Chun, the same day. I have stable housing now. A tiny house. It's been inspected and approved. I'm requesting my daughter be returned to my custody. Jennifer's voice was cautious. That's wonderful, Lisa. I'll need to see the documentation and do a home visit. When? How about Friday? 4 days. Lisa spent them making the tiny house perfect. She'd furnished it with second-hand finds. A small table, 2 chairs, a futon that converted into a couch during the day. Ella's sleeping loft took up one corner, accessible by a ladder Lisa had built herself. She hung curtains, arranged dishes, made the space feel like home. Friday arrived. Jennifer walked through slowly, checking every corner. The bathroom with its tiny shower. The kitchenette with a hot plate and mini fridge. Ella's loft with stuffed animals arranged on the pillow. This is impressive, Ms. Moore. You built this. With help. But yes. And you're employed full-time? Yes. House cleaning. Teresa Garcia's company. I can provide pay stubs. Jennifer made notes. The space is small but adequate. Clean. Safe. You've clearly worked hard. So Ella can come home? I'll make my recommendation to the court. It'll take a few weeks for the hearing. But yes, I think she should be returned to your custody. Lisa felt her knees weaken with relief. Thank you. You did this, Ms. Moore. You rebuilt from nothing. That takes real strength. Samantha fought the recommendation. Lisa should have expected it. But when the court date arrived and she saw Samantha's lawyer, expensive suit, leather briefcase, she realized this wouldn't be simple. Your Honor, the lawyer began, my client has provided a stable, loving home for her granddaughter for 3 months. The child is thriving. She's enrolled in an excellent school, receiving piano lessons, living in a proper house with her own bedroom. Ms. Moore, while well-intentioned, can only offer a 200-square-foot shack. Lisa's free legal aid attorney, overworked and underprepared, tried to counter. Ms. Moore has met all requirements set by social services. She has stable employment, adequate housing, and a strong bond with her daughter. The judge looked between them, then at the stack of papers. I'd like to hear from Ms. Moore directly. Lisa stood, her legs shaking. Tell me why you believe your daughter should be returned to you. She thought about everything she'd been through. The bus, the hunger, the cold, the shame. Every moment she'd wanted to give up. Because I'm her mother, Lisa said simply. I made mistakes. I trusted the wrong person, lost everything when my husband died, and ended up homeless. I'm not proud of that, but I never stopped fighting for her. I worked 3 jobs. I built a house with my own hands. I did everything in my power to create a home she could come back to. And what about your mother-in-law's point? That she can provide more materially. She can. She has a bigger house, more money, more resources. Lisa's voice steadied. But she's also the woman who threw us out when we needed help most. Who blamed me for her son's death. Who only wanted Ella back after seeing I could survive without her. Samantha's face flushed. Her lawyer put a hand on her arm. Your Honor, he interjected. My client admits she made mistakes during her grief. But she's trying to make amends. By taking my daughter? Lisa turned to face Samantha directly. You don't get to decide you want to be a grandmother now that it's convenient. You don't get to erase what you did. I was grieving. Samantha's composure cracked. My son died and you were a reminder of everything I'd lost. So you threw out your granddaughter too. She was 6 years old and you put her on the street. The courtroom went silent. The judge cleared his throat. Ms. Moore Sr., is this accurate? You evicted your daughter-in-law and granddaughter after your son's death. Samantha's lawyer whispered something to her. She shook her head. I was not in my right mind. I've regretted it every day since. But you did it. Yes. The judge made notes. And Ms. Moore, you've complied with all requirements set by social services? You have stable employment and adequate housing. Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Chun, your recommendation? Jennifer stood. The child should be returned to her mother's custody. Ms. Moore has demonstrated remarkable resilience and commitment. The housing, while modest, is safe and appropriate. And the bond between mother and daughter is strong. The judge nodded slowly. I'm inclined to agree. However, I'm also going to order supervised visitation between the child and her grandmother. Family relationships are important when they're healthy. He looked at both women. Ms. Moore, your daughter is returned to your custody effective immediately. Ms. Moore Sr., you'll have visitation every other weekend, supervised initially. Both of you need to put this child's needs above your own grievances. Am I clear? Yes, Your Honor, they said in unison. The gavel came down. Lisa had won. She picked up Ella from Samantha's house that afternoon. Samantha stood in the doorway, her face strained. She's packed. Everything's ready. Ella ran to Lisa, throwing her arms around her waist. Mommy, I get to come home. Lisa knelt down, hugging her daughter tight. Yes, baby. We're going home. Samantha stepped forward. Lisa, I'm sorry. For everything. I was cruel when you needed compassion. I can't take that back. Lisa looked at the woman who'd nearly destroyed her. She could hold on to the anger. Let it poison her. Or she could let it go. You get supervised visits, Lisa said carefully. Every other weekend, like the judge said. But you don't get to question how I raise her. You don't get to criticize. And if you ever make her feel like she has to choose between us, I'll cut you off completely. Understand? Samantha nodded, tears streaming down her face. Thank you. Lisa didn't respond. She just took Ella's hand and walked to her car, a beat-up sedan she'd bought with saved money last month. They drove to the junkyard, to the tiny house that glowed in the late afternoon sun. Raymond was there, waiting. Welcome home, kiddo, he said to Ella. Ella's eyes went wide as she saw the house. We live here. It's like a fairy cottage. Come see your room, Lisa said, leading her inside. Ella climbed the ladder to her loft and gasped. Lisa had painted the walls with clouds and stars. Had arranged all her stuffed animals, including Mr. Whiskers, on the bed. Had made it magical. It's perfect, Mommy. It's the best room ever. Lisa climbed up beside her, holding her daughter close. They sat together in the tiny loft, the winter sun streaming through the window. I'm sorry you had to stay away, Lisa whispered. I'm sorry for all of it. It's okay. You built us a castle. It wasn't a castle. It was barely a house. But to Ella, it was everything. And for the first time in a year, Lisa felt something she'd forgotten existed. Peace. 6 months later, the tiny house had become more than a home. It had become a symbol. Lisa stood in the doorway on a warm spring morning, watching Ella play in the small garden they'd planted together. Tomatoes, herbs, sunflowers tall enough for Ella to hide behind. Life pushing through the dirt, bright and insistent. Mommy, look. The first tomato is turning red. I see it, baby. We'll make sauce when they're all ready. Simple pleasures. Small victories. Lisa had learned to celebrate them all. Her phone rang. An unfamiliar number. She almost didn't answer, still wary of debt collectors even though she'd been making steady payments. But something made her pick up. Is this Lisa Moore? Yes. My name is Carla Washington. I run a nonprofit called Second Foundations. We help people transition out of homelessness. I saw your story online, and I'd like to talk to you about getting involved. Lisa's stomach tightened. My story online? Someone posted about your tiny house built on a community forum. It's gotten quite a bit of attention. People are calling it inspirational. Lisa had no idea. She'd been too focused on surviving to notice the world watching. What kind of involvement? We're looking for someone with lived experience to help design and run our transitional housing program. It's a paid position. Not much, but more than cleaning houses. Lisa's heart stuttered. A real job. Using her experience to help others. I'm interested. Wonderful. Can you come by our office next week? I'd love to discuss details. After they hung up, Lisa stood there holding the phone, stunned. Something was shifting. Not just surviving anymore. Building something bigger. Teresa took the news better than Lisa expected. I'm proud of you, she said over coffee at the diner. You came to me desperate and broken, and now look at you. Moving up in the world. I'll always be grateful for the chance you gave me. Don't be grateful. You earned every dollar. Best worker I ever had. Teresa paused. But I get it. This is your calling. Helping people who've been where you were. Lisa started the job 2 weeks later. Second Foundations operated out of a renovated warehouse, helping 30 families at a time transition into stable housing. Lisa's role was to meet with new clients, assess their needs, and help them navigate the impossible maze of social services. She was good at it. Maybe because she remembered every dead end, every form that required documents she didn't have, every caseworker who looked at her with pity or judgment. What you need, she told a young mother with 2 kids, is to get your daughter enrolled in school first. Use the shelter's address. Once she's in school, you qualify for the after-school program, which is free childcare until 6. Then you can take evening shifts. The woman's eyes filled with tears. They told me I couldn't enroll her without proof of residence. They're wrong. McKinney-Vento Act. Look it up. Homeless children have the right to education. Don't let anyone tell you different. She handed the woman a printed packet. Everything Lisa wished someone had given her when she was lost. By the end of her first month, Lisa had helped 11 families navigate into stable situations. It felt like redemption, one person at a time. The story spread further than Lisa realized. A local photographer asked to document the tiny house for a feature on innovative affordable housing. Then a journalist called, wanting to write about her journey. Lisa hesitated. She didn't want to be a spectacle, but the journalist convinced her. People need to see that poverty isn't a moral failure. They need to see someone who fought back. The article ran in the regional paper with photos of the tiny house, Ella's loft, the garden. The headline read, "From Bus to Home, One Mother's Journey Through Homelessness to Hope." Lisa cringed reading it. The piece was sympathetic but still reduced her life to a heartwarming narrative, glossing over the terror and shame and nights she'd wanted to die. But then the messages started coming. Women reaching out with their own stories. Single mothers struggling. People who'd lost everything and didn't know how to rebuild. They asked for advice, for hope, for proof that survival was possible. Lisa answered every single one. Raymond called her to the junkyard one Saturday afternoon. He was standing beside a second tiny house frame, this one already partially constructed. "What's this?" Got a woman, 43, lost her job in her apartment. 2 teenage sons. Nowhere to go. Raymond gestured at the structure. Figured if it worked for you, might work for her. You in? Lisa looked at the frame, then at Raymond's grizzled face. This man who'd lost his daughter and decided to save everyone else's. I'm in. They worked together every weekend for 6 weeks. Patricia joined. Teresa sent her crew. The woman, Maria, worked alongside them, learning to build her own home. When it was finished, Maria stood in the doorway crying. I never thought I'd have a home again. Never thought anyone would care. People care, Lisa said. You just have to find the right ones. By summer, 3 tiny houses stood on Raymond's land. A small community of families who'd been thrown away by the system and decided to build their own future. Someone started calling it Hope Village. The name stuck. Samantha's visits remained strained but steady. Every other weekend, she picked up Ella for supervised outings. Park visits. Ice cream. Movies. She was careful now, never overstepping, never criticizing. Fear of losing access kept her boundaries firm. One Saturday, she asked to speak with Lisa privately. I've been going to therapy, working through my grief about Sean. My therapist helped me understand that I projected my anger at him onto you. Lisa listened without responding. I can't undo what I did. I know that. But I want you to know that I see you now. Really see you. What you've built, who you are. You're stronger than my son ever was. The admission must have cost her. Lisa could see it in the way Samantha's hands shook. Thank you for saying that. Can you ever forgive me? Lisa considered the question. Real forgiveness, not just the words she'd said in court. I'm working on it. But Samantha, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. You made choices that nearly destroyed us. I can let go of the anger, but I won't pretend it didn't happen. That's fair. Samantha's voice was small. Can I still see Ella? Yes. She deserves to know her grandmother. The version of you that's trying to be better. They'd never be close. Never be family in the way greeting cards depicted. But maybe they could be something else. 2 women connected by loss and a child they both loved. That was enough. A year after moving into the tiny house, Lisa received an invitation. The mayor wanted to honor her at a community event. Recognition for her work with Second Foundations and Hope Village. Lisa's first instinct was to refuse. She hated being the center of attention, but Ella was excited. You're going to get an award, Mommy. Like a trophy. The ceremony was held at the community center where Lisa had once eaten free meals twice a week. Now she stood on a small stage while the mayor talked about resilience and community and the American spirit. Lisa barely heard the words. She was looking at the faces in the audience. Patricia, beaming with pride. Teresa and her crew. Raymond wiping his eyes with his work-scarred hands. Maria and the other Hope Village residents. And Ella, sitting in the front row with Mr. Whiskers, clapping so hard her hands must have hurt. When Lisa accepted the plaque, something about outstanding community service, she stood at the microphone with no prepared speech. A year and a half ago, I was sleeping in an abandoned bus with my daughter. We had nothing. No home, no money, no hope. I thought I'd failed at everything that mattered. Her voice steadied. But what I learned is that failure isn't falling down. It's staying down. Every person in this room who helped me, who gave me supplies or work or just believed I could do it, they showed me that community isn't just a word. It's a choice we make to see each other. She looked at Ella. My daughter never stopped believing in me, even when I stopped believing in myself. And now we get to help other families find their way out of the dark. That's not charity. That's justice. That's what we owe each other. The applause was thunderous. Lisa stepped off the stage, and Ella ran into her arms. I'm so proud of you, Mommy. I'm proud of us, baby. We did this together. That night, after Ella fell asleep in her star-painted loft, Lisa sat outside the tiny house. Spring air carried the scent of jasmine from somewhere nearby. The lights of Hope Village glowed warm against the darkness. She thought about Sean, about the man she'd loved who'd left her with nothing but debt and grief. She'd spent so long angry at him. But maybe that anger had served its purpose. Maybe it had fueled her when nothing else could. She'd never forget what he'd done. But she could finally see past it. Her phone buzzed. A text from one of the women she'd helped through Second Foundations. Got the apartment. We move in next week. Thank you for not giving up on me. Lisa smiled. This was the work now. Not just surviving, but lifting others as she climbed. She thought about that first night in the bus, holding Ella and whispering lies about everything being okay. How terrified she'd been. How certain she'd never find her way out. But here they were. Not just surviving. Thriving. The bus still sat in Raymond's junkyard, a rusted reminder of where they'd been. Lisa had suggested they scrap it, but Raymond refused. "Leave it," he said. "Let people see where you started. Makes the rest mean more." He was right. The journey mattered. The struggle mattered. Not because suffering was noble, but because surviving it was. Lisa looked up at the stars, the same ones she'd painted on Ella's ceiling. Somewhere out there, other mothers were fighting the same battles she'd fought. Sleeping in cars. Skipping meals. Wondering if they'd ever feel safe again. She couldn't save them all. But she could show them it was possible. Could build more tiny houses, help more families, prove that the system didn't get the last word. Her story wasn't a fairy tale. It was messy and painful and full of mistakes. But it was hers. And it wasn't over. Inside, Ella stirred in her sleep, murmuring something about tomatoes and gardens. Lisa's heart swelled with love so fierce it hurt. They'd lost everything. And they'd built it back, piece by piece, day by day, with scarred hands and stubborn hearts. The bus that had felt like a coffin had become the foundation of something bigger. Hope Village would grow. More families would find their way home. And Lisa would be there, offering the hand up she'd once desperately needed. She stood and walked back inside, locking the door behind her. Their small, perfect home. Not what she'd imagined when she married Sean. Not the life she'd planned. But maybe it was better. Real instead of perfect. Earned instead of given. Built from nothing but will and love, and the refusal to stay broken. Lisa climbed the ladder to Ella's loft and kissed her daughter's forehead. Ella smiled in her sleep. Tomorrow they'd plant more seeds in the garden. Tomorrow Lisa would help another family find housing. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and small victories. But tonight they were home. Truly, finally home. And that was everything. So that's Lisa's story. The woman who went from a mansion to a bus to a tiny house that became a village of hope. Some of you watching this might be in situations that feel impossible right now. Maybe you're one crisis away from losing everything. Maybe you've already lost it, and you're trying to figure out how to survive the next day. Here's what Lisa would tell you. You're stronger than you know. The systems are broken and unfair, and you shouldn't have to fight this hard just to exist. But you can fight, and you can win. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more stories about real people overcoming impossible odds. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And drop a comment below. Tell me, what's the hardest thing you've ever overcome? What kept you going when you wanted to give up? Lisa's journey reminds us that home isn't just four walls. It's the people who refuse to let you fall. It's the community that builds you up. It's the love that says, we'll make it through this together. From a condemned bus to a community of hope. That's not just a story. That's proof that even when everything falls apart, the human spirit can rebuild. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.